Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Vadadari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Vadadari Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana 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 Jamuna Tiravana Chari Jamuna Tiravana Chari Tiravana Chari Jamuna Tiravana Chari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Vadadari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Vadadari Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana 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 Jamuna Tiravana Chari Jamuna Tiravana Chari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Vadadari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Vadadari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Vadadari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Vadadari Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravana Chari Jamuna Tiravana Chari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Vadadari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Vadadari Hare Krishna. Welcome to our second session of our discussion of the character or the heart of a Vaishnava. I think one of the things about the heart of a Vaishnava is that a Vaishnava is grateful. Not that I'm a Vaishnava necessarily, but I am grateful to have the opportunity to associate with all of you and discuss these subject matters. I was saying to Madhumati Das and my wife the other day, as we were preparing for this, that it seems like I speak on this topic a lot over the years, speaking on this topic about character, etiquette, ethics. Actually, I teach a course in Introduction to Ethics at Bhaktivedanta College in Radadesh. I should say I taught, because I think those sessions are over from this point in time. Last year they recorded me on the video. They don't need you anymore. But yeah, I've taught that for the last 13 years. It's always an enjoyable experience to go there and meet with the students. In that course, we generally cover the classical Western ethical theories. And so we don't get a chance to delve into these things that we were speaking about here this year. But it's always enlightening for me, and I hope for others, and I hope that all of you will take some worth from what that we have to offer here. Yesterday morning, I think, we talked about, it was a general overview of the subject, character of a Vaishnava. And today, this evening, we'll discuss specifically the first of the characteristics or qualities that the course is made up of. Maybe you can scroll down for me. Let's see. After that, the next slide. Can I have the next slide off? Because I think, oh my goodness. That's obviously an earlier version of the slide. You can just go back up to their choice or individuality. Before we start subject matter, though, I wanted to go over a couple of lessons that I learned from the video presentations that Devarita Maharaj provided for us last evening. 2 points in particular that I got from the presentations on euthanasia, the second of the videos. I know they're a little trying in subject matter, so I hope you don't mind me going back to them, but I do think that the qualities of a Vaishnava can help us in dealing with the difficult subject matter that was there. So the first point was that Maharaj questioned us where our reactions to this law in Belgium that allows people to take their own life, where they come from. Do they come from, our emotions may be of anywhere from outrage to bewilderment, sadness at the plight of human society. But where do those feelings come from? Do they come from our social upbringing? Do they come from our academic study? What's the origin of our reactions to those things? I think that Devarita Maharaj was urging us to make our reaction to those things based on knowledge found in the Shastra, rather than other sources of what's right or wrong. Yesterday, I put up there the subject matter of the moral compass. All of us have a moral compass. It's different for each and every one of us based on our backgrounds, how we make decisions about right and wrong, good or bad, how we make decisions that the young lady in that euthanasia story had to make in terms of her own life. Maharaj was urging us to make knowledge from the Shastra the basis of our reaction, not our mundane conditioning. to focus on the soul. And that's very much what we're discussing here today. We had a discussion on mundane morality versus the character of a Vaishnava. So we should try to, and the attempt of this seminar is to focus our attention on the soul. And doing that, we get a completely different way of looking at things. We see them in a spiritual way rather than a material way. So that's the first lesson. Take knowledge from the Shastra. We are spirit, soul, and try to see things in that light. It may be equally frightening to think that such laws exist and people can make such decisions, and what the consequences or what the next step is. It may be equally frightening seeing it from the position of the soul, but at least we won't be bewildered. At least we'll have a firm basis. You recall that little exercise we did at the beginning of the session yesterday morning? The wave? Yeah, we did the wave, right? And that wave was a turbulent ocean. But then Rob stood up as the lighthouse, and he gave us some steadiness throughout all that turbulent ocean movement. Think about a young lady's life and her state of mind that was in that video. And I think you can easily imagine her mind was like that turbulent ocean going up and down, wasn't it? She didn't know whether she was coming or going, what her bearings were. She didn't know whether to take her life or not take her life. She had no guiding post. But that guiding post is character. That guiding post is character. And just as Rob stood up as the lighthouse and gave us a solid fixed point to work on, character gives us a solid basis. It gives us an orientation. So the waves of the material ocean don't completely wash us away. That's the second lesson we got there. And who can recall what steadiness that young lady found in her life that might be likened to the lighthouse standing in the turbulent ocean? Anybody say what quality, what opportunity did she grasp upon to come back from death?
It seemed like it was the care of her friends and family.
The care of her friends and family. Certainly that was there, but that was there all along, wasn't it? That was clear throughout the video that her family was with her all along. It wasn't right at the end.
I think it was hope, because she had that 2-week gap where she didn't feel like killing herself. So there was that hope that in the future maybe it would go
She had
on.
some hope. Yes, hope is very important.
Maybe she experienced that this is actually becoming real, and she's got that opportunity to opt out or go for it. But it was like kind of matter of choice. It was realistic in the way.
Right, right. She came to some realization of fear, maybe, that, this is actually going to happen. And you said something that I think is the key to what I'm looking for. Yes. Self-harm? That's more like the fear that was keeping away from it. Let's see some of the ladies, man.
Yeah, I was thinking, he said choice, that she could decide that she had the power to choose.
Right. Isn't that what turned her? At least I got, when they had the interviewers with her after the time had passed, when she was supposed to kill herself, that she realized she had a choice. And she thought, well, I can still do it later also, right? Because it's my choice. It's dependent upon my choice. And the doctors, you recall, when they were having the meeting with her, they explained to her, you can change your mind at any time. At any time you can change your mind. So choice, which happens to be the subject we're going to be talking about this evening, choice made a difference for her. that character trait, that character ability, that quality that gave her the hope that she needed so that she could pass that crisis. She found some steadiness, just like the lighthouse in the midst of the turbulent ocean. So where does that choice come from? That's the question. That's what we want to explore this evening. Choice, because each and every one of us also have choice. How we use that choice, what we decide to do, that's up to us, isn't it? That's up to us. So, where we get that choice and how we use it is what we're going to talk about this evening. Now, there is something about Krishna that we should know if we're going to discuss choice. And I want to explain that something about Krishna in two ways. One is philosophically, and the other is through his activities he manifested when he was personally or here on the planet with us. So, we have choice, and I had a slide that had the definition of it written up there, but since it's not on this version, I'll just read it off to you here. Icha. Icha is the Sanskrit word. Icha means desire, usually referring to our will. Krishna concludes his Gita by recognizing that after offering his opinion, Arjuna will do as Arjuna desires. He will make his own choice. Krishna has spoken to Arjuna openly, truthfully, and with affection. He has not been demanding or dogmatic. By leaving the choice as to how to proceed to Arjuna, Krishna has acknowledged Arjuna's freedom. Thus, Arjuna can freely choose to fight or flight and to love. In the Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, text number 63, we find a concluding moment of Krishna's instruction to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. He tells him there that I've explained to you the science of the Bhagavad Gita, which includes the science of the self, the science of material nature, the science of time, activity. I've explained all of this to you. And I read that purport recently, and I was looking for Prabhupada's statement that Krishna said to Arjuna that I'll explain it to you all over again if you didn't get it this first time. It wasn't there in the purport, but it must be in Prabhupada's teachings elsewhere, or his lectures on that verse, where he basically says to Arjuna, I've explained all this to you. Do you understand? And are you ready to act? If you don't understand something, you want me to explain it to you again, I'm prepared to do that. But ultimately, it's up to you to choose. And so a lot is riding on Arjuna's choice. But how much does that choice mean to Krishna? The individuality mean to Krishna? That we can understand philosophically and through his Leela, or pastimes. Of course, we know right from the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, first chapter, first verse, Krishna is described as Swarat, completely independent. He can do anything he wants. And it's not just that he can do anything he wants, but no one can overcome him in his will, his desire, and his action to do what he wants. Swarat, that's Krishna's position. That's God. He's God. He can do anything. No one can check him. And he says of us in Bhagavad Gita, Mavayavamso Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. He talks about us, the jivas, the individual tiny souls. He says that Mavayavamso Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, that we are a fragmental, tiny particle, part of him. Now, if I take a little drop of seawater and analyze it chemically, what am I going to find in terms of that seawater, that drop of seawater, in terms of the whole ocean? What am I going to find when I analyze it chemically? Sodium. It's the same quality. Same quality are going to be there in that little drop as we find in the whole ocean, which includes sodium. Because that little drop is a part of the whole. So whatever the whole has, the part has, but in very, very minute degree. That's the difference. It's a minute degree. But it's the same. So, if Krishna is Swarat, then there must be some of that in us as well. Now, just in case you think I'm just making this up, I'm going to read to you a verse from the Upanishads. People like the Upanishads because they think, oh, now we're really talking Vedic literature and Upanishads. We're not talking the Puranas or Itihasas anymore, Mahabharata, who cares? We want the Vedas. So, Sri Upanishad and its invocation, this is what it has to say. I'm sure many of you know the Sanskrit, I'll read the English here. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete. And because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is complete in itself. Because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. So when we are, let's just say for sake of making the discussion easier, we are created, although we're co-eternal with Krishna, we're not created at some point. He's eternal, we're also eternal. But our eternal existence is as a fragmental part of Krishna that has, in minute degree, the same qualities and characteristics as Krishna. So Krishna has choice. We also have choice. And that's something that Krishna never, ever takes away from us. He never takes it away from us. Why, we'll discuss in a bit. But he doesn't take it away from us. That is our nature. You recall yesterday we were talking about how these Gita values, these character traits that we're going to discuss in the seminar here, are characteristics of the soul. So this choice, the ability to choose, the individuality that indicates is the character of the spirit soul. So it's not a question of taking it from you, not a question of you losing it. And that's so powerful. That idea is so powerful in itself that it saved that young lady in that film yesterday. When she realized, well, wait a minute, I have a choice about this. I can either take my life or not take my life. Or I can take it now or not take it now and take it later. There's some choice. That gave her enough hope to pass that crisis when she was scheduled to have that lethal injection. And choice is so powerful in many ways, which we'll discuss here. But philosophically, does anyone have any question or doubt whether we have this as our very nature as spiritual beings? Choice? Have you been philosophically convinced of that? Because I'm going to try to convince you another way, even if you aren't convinced this way. Okay, so everyone agrees. Philosophically, according to Tattva, we have choice as part of our makeup. But here's how much Krishna values that choice or individuality that we have. You recall how Bhagavad Gita describes why Krishna comes to this world. Can someone quote me a verse about why Krishna comes to this world? What he does when he comes to this world and when he comes to this world? Dharma Samsthapanartha Sampabham Yuge. Yeah, he comes to this world when he sees that the regular function of life, dharma, when it's gotten a little off course and needs to be straightened up, he comes himself. And he says, time and time again, I come to do that. Now, why do you think it got off course a little bit? What pushes it off course a little bit? Probably some of that little independence we talked about, right? That little independence being misused by some living entities sort of pushes it off course sometimes. So Krishna, he says, I come myself and I straighten things out. So he comes with a grand plan. Krishna, he's quite the showman. When he comes himself, he comes with a whole scheme, a grand plan, how to right Dharma and get things back on the right track. And so it is when he appeared at the time of the Mahabharata. And the Mahabharata describes the elaborate arrangements that were inspired by Krishna to bring about the consequence of the Mahabharata war to dethrone Duryodhana and enthrone Yudhisthira. What, the Mahabharata is what, 100,000 verses? 100,000 verses dedicated to, at least from the Vaishnava perspective, to orchestrating the fratricidal war that would result in Yudhisthira being placed as king. Now, we've already described how Krishna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Swarat, he can do anything he wants. Not only can he do anything he wants, no one can stand in his way of him doing what he wants. And so Mahabharata describes in 100,000 verses what Krishna wanted and how he was going to do it. He was quite invested, wouldn't you say? He was quite invested in his plan. But Krishna values choice so much that he did three things which could be understood to be against his own interest of arranging and orchestrating the Mahabharata war. It's quite amazing when you think about it. I mean, he has a purpose, and yet when it comes to whether to give choice or not, he favors giving choice, even if it was something that's against his own interest of accomplishing the purposes for which he's come to the world. Three instances. It was a fratricidal war in the Mahabharata. Two sections of the same family, cousin brothers fighting one another. So there were a lot of relationships that crossed lines, of family lines, crossed family lines. And so Krishna, sort of caught in the middle between the two, he decided that he wasn't going to fight in the war. He wasn't going to fight. And so he was a king, he had an army. Who was Krishna's commander-in-chief? Does anybody know? Satyaki. Satyaki was his commander-in-chief. So he had an army. Good general, Satyaki. So he's only a few of the ones that survived the entire battle of Kurukshetra. So he had his army. And there were all these complicated family relationships. So at one point, Krishna gave Duryodhana a choice. He gave him a choice. He said, Duryodhana, you can either have me on your side, or you can have my army. Now, if you were trying to stack the deck in a game so that you could win, would you offer the other person a chance to gain something that might tip the balance in their favor? That would be against your interest, wouldn't it? And you probably would refrain from doing it. But Krishna so values choice, giving choice, that he gave Duryodhana the chance. You choose, me or my army. Now, of course, Duryodhana probably didn't make a wise choice, but that happens a lot. People don't make wise choices. But even that doesn't prevent Krishna from giving it. Isn't it quite amazing? We've all made certain choices by which we've ended up right here this evening. And I personally think being in Dissociation Devrita Maharaj and all these choices was a good choice that I made that has me sitting here right now. But the fact that we're in this material world probably can be attributed to all of us, that it wasn't such a good choice. So Duryodhana, he may have misused his choice by not taking Krishna and taking his army instead, but that was a material calculation. So many soldiers, they add up. My strength would be so great. What do I need Krishna for? That's definitely a mistake. So he made his choice, and Krishna gave it to him. He gave him his army. His army fought on the side of Duryodhana. So that's number one choice. One instance where Krishna valued choice so much that he acted against his own interest. As things developed, orchestrated by Krishna, and the actual war, the reality of the war got nearer. Just like the reality of that young lady got nearer when the time of death came. Krishna took the position of a Shanti Dut, a peace messenger, and he again went to Duryodhana, and he asked him to make the choice not to engage in the warfare. Again, Duryodhana made the wrong choice. What can we say? But that's number two. Krishna orchestrated the war. He had his purpose. Yadahidahitarmasha Bhavi Bharata Abhutanam Tatmanam Sajananam. He had his plan. And now, for the third instance, after explaining the entire Bhagavad Gita to Krishna, he asked Arjuna, now you have a choice. You can either fight or not fight. I leave it up to you. Krishna was talking to Arjuna, who was the military leader of the five Pandavas. The five Pandavas all were very powerful, no doubt. But the most powerful warrior amongst them was Arjuna. And Krishna explained the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna to convince him to fight. Does anybody have any doubt that Krishna's purpose in explaining Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna was to have him engage in warfare, to take up the fight? That's what he wanted. Yet he still gave Arjuna the choice, you fight or not. He still gave Arjuna the choice, even though Arjuna was the lead warrior. And not having him on the battlefield on the side that Krishna chose, the righteous side, without having him, the chances of success would be significantly diminished. The chances of accomplishing the mission for which he came to the world would be significantly diminished. Yet Krishna offered Arjuna the choice. And that's how much he values choice. We should understand this. It's an essential point. Not just a philosophical point that sometimes can be a little less understood with the heart. We're a drop of seawater and we got the same chemicals as a sea ocean. Yeah. But what about Arjuna being specifically picked, groomed, and instructed and encouraged, inspired to fight, yet still being willing to give that up? That's something we need to know about Krishna. Well, all of us, we're dedicating our lives to Krishna. And sometimes that's not easy. But we should know that Krishna, how important our individuality is to Krishna. And how he's always ready to give it, and he never, never, ever takes it away from us. So that's choice. But it doesn't end there. Because if we have choice, you and I, not just Arjuna, Duryodhana and others, but you and I have choice, and that means there's some implications in our lives of how we exercise that choice as well. So I want to ask you at this point, first, if we've made these things clear to Tattva and Leela, how choice is so valuable to Krishna, if we've made that clear to you, then I want to ask you, what are the implications of that for each and every one of us, good or bad? Good or bad. What are the implications of the fact that we have choice? Does anyone want to share some thoughts? Yes.
That we are responsible, so we have karma.
Okay. We're responsible, we have karma.
We're responsible for our choice.
We're responsible for our choice. That's what Devarita Maharaj was talking about today in the class this morning. Having some knowledge and acting on the basis of it and accepting responsibility, as you say. So yes, choice, individuality means that we have to accept responsibility. And knowledge that backs that responsibility is that there's karma. We do something good, we get something good. We do something bad, we get something bad. Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
It basically facilitates the exchange of love to heaven. So, for example, for there to be a loving exchange with Krishna, there needs to be free will. So therefore we actually have that choice whether or not to stop engaging in Maya and actually start engaging more in our relationship again with Krishna. So that choice allows us to have that loving relationship.
Beautiful. The nature of the relationship between Krishna and his living entity is very much founded on this principle that Gopal Guru was telling us, is a choice. I have a little quote from Srila Prabhupada here, but he discusses this. Prabhupada says, tendency needs the independence. So everyone can know that independence means one can use it properly, one can misuse it. That is independence. If you make it one way only, that you cannot fall down, that is not independence. That is force. Therefore, Krishna says, Yata teshi tata guru. Now you do whatever you like. That's what he instructed Arjuna. So the ability to make choice is central to love. It's essential to love. So we'll come back to that a little bit more later. But other things, yes.
I'd like to ask you about choice.
Mhm.
So, say you serve me 2 cups, and in one cup you serve me juice, that's Krishna, and in another cup you serve me muddy water, that's material existence, and you say, okay, choose which one do you want. So, if I'm in the right state of mind, of course I'll go for juice. So would it be fair to say that there's a choice? Is there really a choice? Or like if our constitutional position is a servant of Krishna, so if I give you a tennis racket and I'll say you can play tennis with or you can shave your head, choose. So where's the choice?
Well, the choice is, just like the choice given to Arjuna whether they should fight or not, it came after the instruction in the Bhagavad Gita. So choice is also based on knowledge, and Krishna understands you may not have knowledge. Therefore, he also gives knowledge. Unfortunately, we have a choice, and we may accept that knowledge or not. But Krishna is giving us the opportunity by providing knowledge and then asking us to make a choice. So it's not putting us in an unfair situation or a situation that is blatantly obvious. Mara gave the example this morning of a pregnant woman. We don't know what's going on inside the womb. If we knew, that would be one thing, but we don't know. There are so many things that we don't know that we need to have knowledge before we can make a conclusion about or come to a decision about or make a choice on. And so Krishna, he provides that knowledge and then he gives us choice. So when we have the muddy water glass and the juice glass, we shouldn't assume that without knowledge from Krishna we can make what's actually the best choice. There may be some benefit in taking that muddy water glass to cure some temporary ill that you don't know you have or something. And there's so many things, happenstances like that. But if we have knowledge, then we can make the choice, and it may be different than, our choice based on knowledge may be different than a choice we make based on other qualities or other characteristics. That's why we're stressing that these choice and other Gita values that we're just going to be discussing have to be understood through the spiritual master, based on spiritual knowledge, and for the benefit of the soul to make the actual right choice. We shouldn't assume that we can make a choice without these things. And so therefore Krishna gives us knowledge. Yes.
In the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavad Gita speak about as well the eternal conditional soul. So when Prabhupada say as well that there is kind of people who always is going to be to hell. So what kind of soul is that? Or for example, when someone is very sinful and they don't have the opportunity to get knowledge for his activities, when they got contact with the devotee, is that for sure? Is that Krishna's choice because they don't have the choice because they did wrong?
Well, as long as we're in this material world, once we make the decision that ends us up here, then our choice is limited in certain ways. For instance, if I get on a plane flying to Fiji, I'm going to go to Fiji, even if I may choose later, I want to go to Auckland or something. So, certain choices direct us in certain ways, but the living entity is originally completely pure. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sada Kalinai Shavanari Shuti Chitti Korya Uda. The living entity is originally pure and has love for Krishna in the heart. And so, how we become conditioned, come to this world, how we've been here, what it seems like an eternity and is described as eternally conditioned, the capability, the potential to be completely uncovered and free from material nature exists in each and every one of us. And so, even though we say eternally, some living use eternally, because they keep making the wrong mistake. They keep making the wrong choices. But when they come in contact with the devotee of the Lord, with the pure teachings of Bhagavad Gita and the Shastra, then they have a chance to start making right choices. And that's the situation we're in. And that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants so much for us to spread this Krishna consciousness so widely so that all conditioned souls, not certain conditioned souls, but all conditioned souls get the opportunity to get knowledge and so they can start making right choices. So eternally conditioned can be understood in that way. Yes.
I can see how powerful choice is. Arjuna was given a choice and he made it. And I experienced him with someone who was clear, confident, assertive, and a warrior. And they made a real difference. He slayed an entire army. I want to say something quite challenging. I don't see that in our movement.
You don't see that type of character.
No.
Yeah, well, because it's probably not a very easy state to be in. Yet, our individuality doesn't give us an excuse that we shouldn't continue to try to purify ourselves, to develop ourselves, to strengthen our sense of I. Individuality of choice basically means the sense of I. Now, right now, in our relationship with Krishna, that sense is a little weak. We're thinking I, instead of dasosmi, I'm a servant of Krishna, we're thinking that, I'm this material body. I'm this material mind. I'm conditioned in these ways. And as we're developing our Krishna consciousness, we're shedding that to some degree. But the sense of I as a spiritual being, as a spiritual entity in relation to Krishna is not very strong. So that may be what you're seeing when you look around, that sense is not very strong. Granted, it may not be, but we're under the process to strengthen that. And by strengthening it, we come to a state where we're so fixed in our spiritual identity. And fixed in our spiritual identity means in our relationship with Krishna. We've become so fixed in that as Maharaj was explaining this morning, with a stick, with Mother Yasoda's stick, she controls the Supreme Controller. Believe me, that's a strong sense of I. Even though she's a servant and all the loving residents of Vrindavan accept themselves as nothing but servant of Krishna, that doesn't mean they don't have a strong sense of I, who I am. Mamata, maybe you've heard this term, mamata. They become so strong in their self-identity that they think Krishna's mine. They start thinking like that, Krishna's mine, out of love. So this sense of choice and individuality, in one sense, it means that we develop this very strong sense of I, of identity, our individuality in our relationship with Krishna. And therefore we can boldly take choices, make choices that easily distance ourselves from those in the material world that are wobbling and flaky or completely absorbed in material nature. We have one great shining example of Srila Prabhupada where he made choices when even he was discouraged. You know what Sumati Morarji, the one who gave Prabhupada the passage to America, said when Prabhupada finally got to see her? He said, Swamiji, you don't want to go there. It's cold. You have nothing to eat. You'll die there. Prabhupada didn't care. He was so strong in his determination, what his relationship with his spiritual master was, what he had to do, that he convinced her, no, just give me the ticket, don't worry about those other things. He didn't worry about them. So he's that example for us, that strong, shining example. I would say that I do see a strong sense of I amongst the devotees in ISKCON. Granted, it may not be universal, but I do see it. I mean, come on, 50 years of maintaining ISKCON and expanding the outreach work of ISKCON, it results from some strong determination, strong sense of this is my mission in life to take up. And so it could always be stronger, and we're not Arjuna, but I think it's there. I'd say it's there. But it's right to be challenging, that's good. Any other things? Yes.
Could a strong sense of clash could create a problem with having clashes with other strong sense of I's of others?
Okay, I and ego. Is there a possibility of clashing between the strong sense of I? Yeah, there are obviously good things that come from this choice. There are bad things as well. Not only do we make bad choices, but sometimes we, as you say, in the spirit of a strong sense of I, become in conflict with others. And that's more than likely to end up in an unfavorable situation for what either party is attempting to accomplish. So, therefore, Gita values, not Gita value. This is one. Tomorrow, we're going to be discussing priti, or love. And that may help balance out this one quality of choice. the combination of these things working together. Because after all, that's real life, isn't it? We don't go around just with one quality choice, and that's the totality of our existence and our relationships with others. But these other things are mixed in there, so hopefully we'll balance it out by the other qualities. And we'll learn something too, knowledge. We'll learn. Srila Prabhupada wrote a funny letter in the beginning of the movement. He wrote a letter and he said, he started way in the universe with Brahma or something. Brahma's in control of this, and the Manus are in control of that, and the avatars in control of this. He brought it down. Then he said, and such thinks he's in charge of, the whole world. In other words, we are probably more insignificant than we are significant. That's an important quality to learn about the self as well, and choice, and the execution of choice. We execute it as servants, not as masters. So, a combination of those two things.
When you say that Yasoda Mata, she thinks that she is the Krishna's mother, that is a choice, or is his eternal position? Because we are practicing Krishna consciousness to get our real relationship with Krishna. So, given the example, someone is like a friend of Krishna. If he is going to think that he is friend of Krishna, or he is friend of Krishna. So Mother Yasoda is mother of Krishna, or she's thinking?
I think Mother Yasoda is the mother of Krishna. Am I? Yeah. I don't think that duality exists in the spiritual world. That we're questioning whether we're thinking or we actually are. In our purified eternal relationship with Krishna, we are, our thoughts and our body or our position, these aren't differentiated. If we come to the stage of purification and love for Krishna, where we're entering into Krishna's pastimes, then that relationship is eternally true. And so it's not a question of whether we're just hallucinating that we are relating with Krishna.
Yeah, because you say she's in that such a position that she thinks that she is Krishna's mother.
She believes she is Krishna's mother, and she's acting as Krishna's mother. And this gets into complicated questions of tattva, the philosophical truth, and the lila, Krishna's pastimes with his devotees. Materially, we may calculate, the truth is the philosophical understanding and not the loving exchange that's going on. But in truth, both are there. The philosophical truths which tend to inhibit the loving exchange are minimized in Goloka Vrindavan, where Krishna exchanges with his devotees. It's not prominent there. It may be prominent in the Vedic literatures or places where Krishna is in Vaikuntha and the grandeur is there and there's an awe and reverence relationship. But in Goloka Vrindavan, where Mother Yashoda controls Krishna with a stick in her hand, that's a realm of complete love. And it's not that it's not true, and it's just based on this kind of philosophical truth only. No, it's actually the factual relationship between Krishna and his devotee, Mother Yashoda. So that's a little different subject matter here. I have some implications at some point I would like to ask you about. implications of our having choice. Why don't I do that now? Is that okay? Do that now. What implication does having choice or individuality, how does it play a role in our sharing Krishna consciousness with others? Yes.
They have the choice to accept it or not.
Yes, they have the choice to accept it or not. But how does that influence our behavior?
To be aloof from it,
To be aloof from it.
or not to be attached to the result.
Not to be attached to the result. Yeah, aloof sounds a bit not strong enough sense of I, going out and I'm trying to help spread Vachitan's meaning. But not attached, I think that's good. Helps us not to be attached to the results of our activities, because we know by knowledge they're coming from Krishna. Our job is to act and depend upon Krishna. So yeah, that's true. Any other aspects that it does here?
I was thinking just as you explained how Krishna respects the individuality of others, we also have to respect the individuality.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, we also have to respect the individuality. So that means that we might refrain from being dogmatic. I have a definition of dogmatism here, so when I read it, so that we know what we're talking about. Dogmatism, and maybe it's not applicable, please correct me. Dogmatism is an insistence that all moral disagreements are resolved by some preferred set of rules or doctrines, that inside that set there is nothing that can be questioned, and that outside that set there is nothing of any moral worth. So, do we want to be dogmatic? Should we be dogmatic in our outreach efforts? What do we do for that person that says, well, you may believe that, I believe something else? Do we force them? How do we leave them in our exchange with them?
Well, first we want to leave them with a good impression, so they want to meet us again, talk some more, and if they're open to it, we can try and discuss, maybe present some logic or some reason to bring them more to our position they can accept Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. It's sort of a mature, patient wait for a person, giving a person another chance to come back and interact, giving them, and not leaving them with a bad taste in their mouth so that they never take it up, even though they may be searching. Yeah, I think that's an important way to understand choice in interacting with others in our outreach work. Anyone else? Yes.
For us, it may be a small choice to go out on consecutive, but for the person choosing to buy the book, that choice is quite a big choice, because that choice will change their life at some point or another. It will change somebody else's life.
Excellent. I mean, understanding the magnitude of the person's choice when they take the book from us, this may be another person for us. Of course, it should be the same magnitude for us when we're giving Krishna consciousness to anybody. It's a big thing. And if people voluntarily make that choice to take it, what does that represent? It represents the end of their material existence by making that choice. And you're the agent. That's a great responsibility, isn't it? That's a great responsibility, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Something I struggle with a bit is fear of rejection. And that can, when we try to outreach to give, that fear can manifest quite strongly. Just could be the point about the desire to love, the soul wants to love. And the nature of duality of this world is when we want to love, there's also the fear that we'll be rejected. So, yeah, that's something and even if we bring someone to the association of devotees, in my mind is a question, will they be accepted? Or, I mean, will I even be accepted? Will I continue to be accepted? Several years on, that fear.
Well, I think that we all have coverings on the soul that make us hesitant to make the right choices, to give other people the right choices. Due to misuse of our independence, our individuality in the past, we've gotten ourselves in a situation where we're not used to acting for the benefit of others, and we're more concerned about our own individuality, how it impacts me. But I think that as we grow and strong in the sense of I as a person and choices I make in serving Krishna and giving others the chance to serve Krishna, then those things, the weakness of heart becomes less, and we out of compassion, try to benefit others and care about their choice more than what it does to us. And that's the life of a preacher, self-sacrifice, isn't it? Yes.
Could you say something about respecting others' choice when it comes to parenting and raising Krishna conscious children? So, on the one sense, we have that responsibility as a parent to help them to make the right choices and that. So, in one sense, to some extent, through some period of their life, we're having to sometimes make that choice for them. But at the same time, we want them to develop that feeling that we respect their individuality and that they're choosing Krishna consciousness as their choice, that it's not something that's dogmatic, that's forced on them. Or,
right. Yeah, well, I think that he's asking about parental guidance, how we make choices for our children, should we make choices for our children. But it's not just in the parent-child relationship. It's also there in a guru-disciple relationship. It's also there in the position of anybody in spiritual leadership of those underneath them. There are times in the relationships, in all these relationships, when choice does have to be guided. So that's not a question. If we're a brand new devotee and we're thinking, well, I've heard that, Shesha Das said, you have choice, and so therefore I'm going to come and I'm not choosing to do that right now, my dear temple president. I'm choosing to do this because that's my nature. No. Choice has to be guided, and it's at the proper time, in the proper circumstances, it has to be guided. It's like a parent-child relationship. Children have to be guided and molded. They have to be given knowledge. They have to be trained. All these things are necessary so that one can make the right choices. And out of protection, that freedom to make choices may be limited in the beginning of life for a child, or the beginning of Krishna consciousness for a new devotee that's joined our society. So it's not that it's just absolute choice. It's educated choice. Again, we go back to the example of Arjuna. He was educated in Bhagavad Gita, the science of the self. Then he was given a choice. We have to educate our children. We have to educate our spiritual dependents. But that education does not mean force at the same time, because force won't work. Love, let me get to that. Force will work, but what kind of force will work? Yeah, loving force will work. Other kinds of forces won't work. But if you express your love for someone, and that love restricts or guides or teaches, informs their choices, then that will be accepted. But if it's just force, after a time, there'll be rebellion. After a time, there'll be rebellion. So it takes some intelligence, some maturity to be able to guide people like that. So that's the result of exercising right choice, developing the sense of I am served to Krishna, and then taking responsibility to help others develop in the same way. So it's a process that we have to go through. But if it descends to force or worse, then we're going in the wrong direction. That's it.
I have an example.
Yes, Marge. Mhm.
Just this morning, I had to deal with a case like you're saying. There was one person who was from overseas in New Zealand and took up bhakti here, and then had to go home overseas. Couldn't stay here, and went to the parents' house very fearful because of a very close relationship with the parents. And the father is total physicalist, reductionist, materialist, just nothing spiritual. And when you die, that's it. Forget all this spiritual hocus pocus stuff. So she was fearing what it was going to be like because she was caught. She knew intellectually he's in ignorance, but the bond, the parental-child bond, because it was a very materially caring family. So there was great fear, and so she wanted me to monitor the situation. I had to be very careful to try and observe how she's making her choices and not artificially push her to something that right now she may not be capable of. So I had to watch and see what her aptitude is, how water is seeking its own level. And of course, naturally, because Krishna is for real, I would urge and coax gently a certain way, but I had to make sure that I wasn't living her life for her. So it's a real delicate art. So at first, the father was very hostile, and then he backed off and became very congenial. Even letting her offer food before they would eat and all that kind of thing. But then the last day, because she's on her way to a temple, the day before departure, he lowers the boom. You are doing something that your mother and I do not approve of. And we're telling you this because we love you, and we want you to know that you are embarking on a path that we do not approve of. So she sent me a message that, oh my God, for the first time in my life, I'm about to do something that my parents don't approve of. I said, really? When you started drinking alcohol bashes at the age of 15 and partying and but they didn't know about that, so so you take up the bhakti process. Basically, we clean you up. We do your parents' job. You have dropped all alcohol. You've dropped all, hookup liaisons. You're following the 4 rules. You're chanting Hare Krishna. We're doing the parents' job. At the same time, I couldn't push it too much because I wanted that she finds her own feet with a little gentle coaxing. So she said, she had made her decision. I'm moving on now. My parents don't understand. It's the first time I'm doing something that my parents are totally against, but I'm going to the Association of Devotees. When I get there, I hope that I'll be bolstered and strengthened, because right now I'm a bit wobbly. Understandably so. So it's a very delicate situation. Maybe someone with not so much experience dealing with the situation would have said, just drop those Maya people, just. But, you know, from their point of view, they did their best to raise her, you know? So I said, you gotta respect that. At the same time, as the Bhagavatam says, who were your parents in your last life? Where are they now? Who were your parents in the lifetime before that? Who will be your parents in the next life? So there's the spiritual reality, but there's also the temporary reality of material attachment. So I had to deal with the situation in such a way that she would build her own muscles with a little gentle help. Because I can't live her life for her. So it's difficult. Of course, this doesn't always happen. Such parents, just yesterday, just to balance the situation, the mother of one devotee came to see him here, and I asked her, so have you noticed changes in your son? She said, when I heard that he had become a devotee, I said, hallelujah, I mean, Hare Krishna. That was Risha's mother. What a change! I thank you. I've had other parents. I was leaving Wellington, flying out, and some man comes up to me. I heard you were flying, and I'm the father of so-and-so. I just want to thank you for what you've done for my boy. So, it does happen the other way also. But in this particular case, this young lady, father was an avowed materialist. He got some, you can find anything on the internet, it's a jungle. So he got some report for some disgruntled ex-devotee. Aha, look at this. And just using that against her. And so it was a very difficult situation to deal with, because one has to observe the capacity of that conditioned soul. Whether maybe the person is just meant, at this point in the spiritual development, just meant to kind of be a friend of Krishna. Maybe that's the choice. Or maybe this person, although feeling emotionally one way, has a strong enough intelligence to go another way. And who knows, it could change in the future. So it could go this way, that way, back and forth. So it's very touchy. Dealing with choice.
Well, you know, Raj, we were talking the other day about sort of a mutual mentee that we have from back there in Florida, and how sometimes devotees get themselves in a situation where they sort of refuse to make the necessary choices they should be making to move their life along. They're comfortable in the ashram or something, in a place that maybe is in between, and they found a little comfort, and they're not making the necessary choices to move along. So sometimes that's another kind of delicate situation where choices have to be made, and people are advised, maybe it's best that you make this decision in your life now, and not just continue coasting in a position that's essentially irresponsible, in their circumstances. And so Yeah, it's a delicate balance, as you say. I just want to leave you with one quote from a letter from Srila Prabhupada that talks about how to train devotees in Krishna consciousness and how we'll get the best out of everyone who engages in different processes of devotional service. This letter was written in 1972. This is just an excerpt. Krishna consciousness. Excuse me. Krishna consciousness movement is for training men to be independently thoughtful and competent in all types of departments of knowledge and action, not for making bureaucracy. Our leaders shall be careful not to kill the spirit of enthusiastic service, which is individual, spontaneous, and voluntary. They should try always to generate some new atmosphere, a fresh challenge to the devotees, so that they will agree, they make their own choice, they will agree enthusiastically to rise and meet it. That is the art of management, to draw out spontaneous loving spirit of sacrificing some energy for Krishna. Then he ends, but where are so many expert managers? So that's a little bit about choice. We'll discuss other things in other sessions. I think it's time for kirtan at this point. Unless anybody has one burning question, statement, comment to make. Oh, you? Yes, please.
We are all children of Krishna, and He has given us the choice. But at some point, we had the knowledge to make, but we didn't make the right choice, and we ended up here. And that's what I'm summarizing the whole situation. But when I'm looking at my kids, and I don't want them to make the wrong choices, and I just don't want them to make giving them the knowledge and reinvent the wheel as well. What I have been through, I don't want them to be through the same situation. So how do I actually balance this situation? Because I know why I'm here, because I made the wrong choices. Even though Krishna at one stage given me that knowledge and facilitated me to make the right choices, but I didn't. So
the point is, we learn from our mistakes. We learn from, and Krishna, as I said, he never, ever takes away your choice, your individuality. He doesn't do that, even though you make mistakes. But does he ever leave your heart as a Paramatma, as a super soul, where he's guiding you, do the right thing, do the right thing? We can learn from our mistakes, which is different than actually in some ethical philosophies. You can't learn from your mistakes and be a true follower of those philosophies, but that's not true in Krishna consciousness. We learn from our mistakes, and then we take responsibility to guide others. That's all we can really say, sort of in sum to the question. Learn from your mistakes, start making the right choices, and start guiding or helping others. What you have, if you share it with others, then it'll become stronger for you. So we act in that way. Act in Krishna consciousness. Okay, just one last thing.
I was going to say, I just listened to you here, and you making choice is attractive. When someone is taking control of their life, let's say Arjuna taking control in the battlefield, getting clear about what he wanted, that inspires others. I'm thinking if we be in that way, or if I be in that way, then people will want to come as well.
Yeah, when people see devotees with the following characteristics, they're attracted. One who leads by example. one who is decisive in living, who works according to well thought out plans and effectively implements such plans, who is self-confident, who is self-controlled, who always is willing to try, who uses proper discretion. People are attracted by such a person, and those are qualities of one those who have learned to exercise discretion in the service of Krishna. I mean, these things could all be attributed to Prabhupada. Prabhupada led by example. He was decisive. He had a plan. When Prabhupada came to America, we tend to think, well, he came to America and then nothing really started until July '66 when he opened 26th Avenue and everything. But Prabhupada was walking, he was going around New York checking it out, looking at the people, trying to understand their mentality. He was always, well aware and very deliberate in what he did. It wasn't just he was just spacing out in New York for 6 months and then somebody came and helped him. No. He was very careful. He observed. He wrote letters like that. How he observed the people. How they act, what motivates them. He observed. So when he got the preaching opportunity, he'd be ready. And self-confidence, self-control. These are all descriptions of Prabhupada. And we can follow his example. Yes, ma'am.
Can you briefly tell us how you enacted a series of choices? How you enacted a series of choices in order to take up the bhakti process and association of devotees? There must have been choices, key choices along the way in response to, I don't know, what the various pressures or things that had to be coped with, I don't know.
When I first came in contact with the devotees, it was something that just by nature, being a little foreign to my mother, was by nature she feared it. She feared it. And although she didn't confront me or confide in me about her fears, I knew that she had them. So that became more and more interested in Krishna consciousness by making decisions such as lending the car to the devotees, my car to the devotees during the day when I was at work. They drive me to work. I was lending my car. God knows what they were doing with it. They were robbing banks or something. But I made the decision, you guys take it and come pick me up when the work's over. So after doing that for several months, I decided that now is the time for me. I'm going to go to join the temple. So I made that decision, and I thought I'll share it with my parents, my decision. So I shared it with them, and then all the emotion came out. No, don't do this, we'll do that, For the first time in her life, my mother came into the city in my apartment with her sister, just to see me, to plead me, don't do this. And so they obviously didn't want me to make that decision. And so I relented. I gave up the plan. I said, okay. I had already quit my job and everything. But I got another job, I didn't go. And they said, you can practice here, don't go. Anyway, so I made a decision not to go. But then, after about 4 weeks, I said, I'm going. But let me do it a little differently this time. So this time, I didn't inform them anything. I silently left my job, took care of all my possessions. But I had this car, and I had to do something, so On the night, I had already made the plane reservations, everything, I was out of there. So I went and I made a decision, let me talk to my father. Let me have a man-to-man talk with him. Probably the first time in my life that I had a man-to-man talk with my father. And I told him, this is something I have to do with my life. I have to do this. And I'm telling you this, asking you to support me in this. And I think it mattered to him that it was done in that way, that he was part of the decision, because he felt like my son is a man and he's communicating to me like a man, and he's expressing something that's obviously very, very important to him. And I have to respect that, even though I might disagree with him. So he even drove me to the airport the next day. And my mother didn't surface at all in the situation, because I think he told her, he's got to do this, let him do it. He's made his decision, respect it. And I felt that. And actually when I was on the plane, I just started, gotten emotional, because I felt that a break had been made. The bond that's there between child and parent had moved to the next step. And ultimately, it worked out for everyone, so.
Yeah.